Parashat Pinchas, we found that Pinchas gets a reward for the Kinat Hashem that he had. But you need to understand that at the time, before Hashem said, Lachen emor hineni noten lo et briti shalom, the Sanhedrin, the Chachamim, says the Yerushalmi, wanted to put him in Nidui. They did not agree with what he did. They said that what Pinchas have done over here, to kill Zimri ben Salu, which was Nasi Bet Av Shimoni, was a murder. You're not allowed to do such a thing. You have to be charged for it. You can't just kill people. You can't just go around killing people. Even if a person sins, it doesn't give you a right to kill somebody. That was true until HaKadosh Baruch Hu interrupted and said that Pinchas ben Aaron, ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, השיב את חמתי מעל בני ישראל, לכן הנני נותן לו את בריתי שלום, and he was indeed righteous for doing so. We need to understand what was the back and forth over here, why Sanhedrin didn't agree with him. And in order to understand that, I'd like to take you to Gemara in Bava Kama. Gemara in Bava Kama Daf Lamed. The Gemara says over there, Man debai lemeheve chasida. If a person wants to become a chasid, a person that wants to do the right thing, and he wants to go over and do extra, chasid means, what chasid doesn't mean those that have beot, right? Rather, chasid means doing lifnim mishuat adin. That's what chasid means. Amar Rav Yehuda, man debai lemeheve chasida, lekayim mili den zikin. You have to be mekayem the halachot of nezikin. Nezikin means whatever it says in Choshen Mishpat, Bava Kama, and the other Bavot has also some inyanei nezikim. Rav Amar mili de Avot. Avot means Pirkei Avot, the Musarim of Pirkei Avot. Ve'amri la mili de Brachot. Third opinion is to be mekayem the Brachot. Whatever is nogea to Hilchot Brachot. Now you have over here three different things, and if we take a look at the Maharsha, he opens up a little bit to understand what's those, why the Gemara picked on those three things. The Maharsha in the back, he says that those three things come to teach us three different important levels that a person, and three different relationships that a person must have. A person have three different relationships that are very, very important, and one can build the other. You need to, in other words, it's like a building. You have to have the first one in order to build the second level. And what are they? First of all, you all know and familiar with the relationship we have with people. A person has a relationship with his friends, with his family, with his wife, with his children, with his colleagues to work, with his boss, with the mailman, a relationship between men and men. Then you have a relationship that also has to be built, and it's not given as something that's automatic, and that is a relationship between man and God, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You also have to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not an easy relationship because you have to build it up. It's not like you see the mailman, you say, good morning, he answers, good morning, how's the weather today? Wonderful. How are you feeling? That's easier than having a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But you also have to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then you have a third relationship, and that is something that is not less important than the other two, and the most important maybe, and that is the relationship between a person and himself. Very important. Person must have a relationship with himself. In other words, he has to understand himself. He has to learn about himself. Just like you learn a sugya in the Gemara, you go in depth into that sugya. You have a sugya of how to stone an ox. Liskol shor. How is that done? You want to know all the details. You go into the sugya. You start digging in. You start learning the Gemara, the Mishnah, the Gemara, the Rishonim, the Achronim, everything in depth you want to understand. So when it comes in the Halacha, you have all the ins and outs. Same thing, and not less important, a person has to learn the Sugya calls himself. You are Moshe. You want to know about all the details of Kochot HaNefesh. What am I? What do I like? What I don't like? What gets me going? What's not? makes me sad, what makes me happy, why does it make me sad, why does it make me happy. When you learn all this sugya, then you have what to work with. By the way, this is simple psychology. Psychology opens up and tries to explain to you yourself. When you understand yourself, then you know how to deal with different things. So this is the Marsha. I'm reading the Marsha. The Marsha says, יראה כי חסיד נאמר על מי שעושה מעשיו על צד היותר טוב, כמאמרם במעלות הטוב 10 דברים, זהירות מביאה לזוז, and so on, חסידות מביאה לידי רוח קודש, which means חסידות is a higher level. ולפי שיש לאדם במעשיו הטובות ג' חלקים. דהיינו, טוב לשמיים, טוב לבריות וטוב לעצמו. That's what we're saying, כאמר רב יהודה, מן דבאי למעבר חסידה, לקיים מילי דנזיקין, שאז יכול לתקן מעשיו שיהיה טוב לבריות. נזיקין is not to damage others and to be good for others. By the way, the ראשונים learned that the mitzvah ואהבת לרעך כמוך is mitzvah not to damage whatever you wouldn't do to your property. However, you would not damage your property. If you see something that belongs to you on the floor, you would pick it up and you would not leave it on the floor. Same thing would be with some items, some things that belongs to your friend. The same way that you would treat your items, your money, same thing you should treat your friend's things. That's the mitzvah of ואהבת לרעך כמוך that's part of the mitzvah of ואהבת לרעך כמוך according to many rishonim. So over here we're saying that man דמעבר למעבר חסידה, man דבאי למעבר חסידה, לקיים מילי דנזיקין, ואז יכול לתקן מעשיו שיהיה טוב לבריות. רבא כאמר לקיים מילי דאבות, ואז יתקן מעשיו שיהיה טוב לעצמו במידות. The person also has to be good for himself. ואמר לה לקיים מילי דברכות, ואז יהיה טוב לשמיים. Yeah. So those are the 3 different things. Now that's important for us to understand, because when it comes...
So you're saying it's not a stira?
No, not a stira. No. You have to have those 3 things. But what I'm trying to explain right now is that you have to understand that in order to be mekayem all those 2 other relationships, and that is between men and men and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, correctly, you have to first understand that you have to be happy with yourself. The mitzvah of treating others, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, you can't be ואהבת לרעך כמוך, you cannot love your friend unless you love yourself. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, it has to be first that you love yourself. Now love yourself not on a negative note that people say, oh, this person loves himself too much. When we're talking about that, we're saying such a thing to a person that's a Baal Gava. But to love and feel good about yourself, that's not something negative in any way. On the contrary, that's something that you have to have in order to do everything else. That's the base of having Kol HaTorah Kula, that you first have to be okay with yourself. You have to feel good about yourself. Now, if you're not feeling good about yourself, you can't love your friend. So that's why you see that when a person is negative towards others, you see a person that rebukes others, that always puts others down. Why does he do that? Because he doesn't feel good about himself. If a person feels good about himself, he's complete, he feels happy with himself, he's also good to others. He also has to, you'll see him spreading compliments all over. He's trying to make others happy. Why? Because that person is happy with himself.
Does it include going?
No, ואהבת לרעך. So that's a very important point what I'm saying right now, that whenever you see a person that's not nice to others, you need to know that the reason he's not nice to others is not because he's not nice, most of the time. It's not because he's not nice, not because he's mean, it's not because he's rude, it's not because he's snobby, it's this or that. It's because the person doesn't feel good with himself. So when you come across such a person, it's a totally different way you view a person if you understand that the reason he speaks to you like that is because the person himself is not good with himself, is not happy with himself. And that is what we're saying. Chazal said it in simple words. They said that kol de posel bemumo posel, which means if you see somebody who's posel, who puts others down, who sees the negative in others, you need to know, where does it come from? He comes from himself. He's posel bemumo. Those are his blemishes. Because a person that feels good about himself, he's not gonna he doesn't emphasize the negatives on others. It's not burning within him to see the negative in others, even if it's very clear that the other person has those negatives. He has something that's not good, but it doesn't work in him that he sees that, and it's emphasized in him that he has to speak about it, and he feels a lot about it. Rather, a person that's negative, right away he sees all the negativity in the world because he is negative himself. And that's what it says over here in Parashat Pinchas. What does it say in Parashat Pinchas? When Pinchas comes to kill Zimri ben Salu. So the simple understanding is that anybody that does something negative, obviously it reflects on him that he is negative. A person that comes to murder others, we're not going to say that, he did a righteous move. We say that you have a fault, and you took your fault so much to the extent that you can kill others. That's terrible. And that is the reason that when a person comes to be mekayem the mitzvah of Kanaim pogim bo, like Pinchas was mekayem, we tell him it's halacha ve'en morim ken. Do not do it. When you come to ask the Sanhedrin, you come to ask the Beit Din, they'll tell you you're not allowed to be mekayem that mitzvah. Don't do it. It's not something that's practical that you can actually do. And Pinchas, after he did it, they wanted to put him in nidui, excommunicated. That's what they wanted. And shelo birtzon chachamim, says the Yerushalmi. Until HaKadosh Baruch Hu came and said, no, it was completely l'shem shamayim. Why? Because when a person does something negative, the simple understanding is that he's doing it because he is negative, not because yes, the other person is at fault, but in order to make such a maaseh, you have to be completely okay with yourself. You have to be completely without any negiut that you're doing it for the wrong reason, and that's where Rashi adds to us and fills us in the first Rashi. Rashi says, Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen, lefi shayu hashvatim mevazim oto. They put him down. Why did they put him down? It should have said over here, they rebuked him, they told him, you're wrong. Mevazim oto means they put him down. What does that mean, putting down? Because he is a low person for doing such a thing. Obviously, it comes from a negative character trait. And what did they say? Listen to the words. You saw this person that his grandfather, Yitro, used to worship Avodah Zarah, so obviously he doesn't feel good about himself. A person that doesn't feel good about himself because of his grandfather, this is the way he grew, this is what he carries with himself. He has this negative feeling, he feels lower than others, he feels a low self-esteem. Because of that, he does whatever he does. So that doesn't permit him. V'arag nasi shevet miYisrael. So that's the reason to put him down. Comes the Kadosh Baruch Hu and says, no. You're wrong. Lefichach va'katuv yichso achar Aaron. It goes after Aaron, which was rodef shalom, ohev shalom, mekarev et habriot, which means he is shalem. He is somebody who's complete. And that's why Kadosh Baruch Hu comes and says, Arei lachen hineni noten lo et beriti shalom. Shalom is peace. Comes the Kadosh Baruch Hu and says, this person is so much in peace with himself. He's so mushlam that now we can go to the next level of relationship between me and him as well. Lachen imor ineni noten lo et briti shalom. By the way, in the Torah, shalom, the vav is cut. If anybody sees in the Torah, it's vav ketia to indicate the word shalem. Shalem means complete. Pinchas was shalem, and because of that, because he's shalem with himself, he can have a relationship with me as well and with others as well. A full and complete relationship. And that's why when Eliyahu Hanavi will come before Mashiach, when Eliyahu Hanavi, right before Mashiach, הנני שולח את אליהו הנביא לפני בוא יום השם הגדול והנורא. So, Chachamim tell us that Pinchas is Eliyahu. And the Mishnah in Eduyot says that En Eliyahu ba ela לעשות shalom ba'olam, which means Eliyahu does that very job to spread shalom, peace between men and men. Why is that? Because Pinchas has that character trait of Aaron HaKohen, which is he's good with himself. Once a person is good with himself, he can give and do shalom to others as well. Now, this is a very big musar for us. Because if we're not feeling good with ourselves, we can't start building a relationship, not with others and not with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the first building block to feel good about yourself. And you see that today, the way they teach musar to people and to kids in school and people to their children is in a way that you pound them with musar. You have to do this, you have to do that, and they put under pressure, whether it's peer pressure or the school pressure or mashgiach pressure or whatever pressure people are in. And that pressure is not something that builds them in a right and constructive way. Because when you're under pressure, all you want to do is eventually take that yoke off yourself. As soon as you can, and your parents are not looking, or your mashgiach is not looking, or your Rosh Yeshiva is not looking, or whatever it is, the society is not looking, you're out in vacation, you're just trying to take everything apart. Rather, the right way to do is make a person feel good about keeping the Torah and the mitzvot, which means you have to have that relationship, and that is called the relationship between a person and himself. When you come to the Torah, Torah teaches you how to, the Musar, the Pirkei Avot, as the Gemara explains in Bava Kama Lamed, that Pirkei Avot comes to teach you at Kochot HaNefesh, that you should feel good about things. When you learn the Torah, you should not look at things as different things that you must do. It's different burdens that you have to take upon yourself, pressures and things like that, which then you're not going to be able to perform in the correct way. Rather, a person needs to understand that those things come, maybe it's a challenge, what the Torah tells you. There's different mitzvot that are challenges, but eventually what you need to look at it as a positive thing, something that is sweet, something that is good, and something that builds your inner feelings and your inner strengths, that you should be a better person. Once you're a better person, you become a happier person. So it's like an exercise. A person goes to gym, and in the beginning it could be hard, but he understands that those things are not just weights that you just try to finish and get it over with. Rather, it builds you up, it makes you better, and it makes you happier, it makes you healthier, and so on and so forth. That's what the Torah is about. When a person looks at it, views things in the correct manner, first thing he does is he builds himself. He's good with himself. Once he's good with himself, then he can have relationship with others. So that's something that's very important. When the Torah comes and speaks about the mitzvah of Ahavat Hashem, for instance, you have to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How are you supposed to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The Rishonim speak about how do you supposed to fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's Yirat Hashem. Yirat Hashem, how are you supposed to fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I don't feel it. How are you supposed to feel such a thing? How the Torah commands me to do something that I don't feel? So, over here, the Rishonim have different, and the Achronim have different explanations. But when it comes to Ahavat Hashem, the Rambam also gives you an understanding of how to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says that when you learn the Torah, and you learn about the world, and you see the beautiful things that Hashem created, so you come to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But that is true when you first have the base beforehand. You have to have, first of all, the core. You have to have something that you could build on those roots. And what are those roots? First of all, you have to feel good about yourself. So when you come to teach your kids, that's the basic. First, you have to believe in yourself. First, you have to feel good about yourself. When you feel good about yourself, then he would want to hear about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he wants to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And you'll see that in society, the people that go off the derech, it's almost 100% of the kids that go off the derech is because they didn't feel good about themselves, whether they came from a broken family or from a broken society, or from different. They grew up in a school where the kids made fun of them. Let's say they weren't so good in sports, so in that school the kids gave a lot of importance to being good at sports. So they put him down because he's not good at sports. Whatever it is, a kid that starts feeling not good about himself, he starts feeling a low self-esteem. Those are the kids that in much higher danger of falling off religion. Why is that? Because they're not feeling good about themselves. When you don't feel good about yourself, you don't feel good about HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. You don't feel good about society at large. You don't feel good about anything. That's the basic. when a person feels good about himself because he has a good family, so the people that are supportive of him, he goes to school and he has people over there that love him, so he feels good about himself. That's a very important block, that on that you can build the building afterwards of Ahavat Hashem, Ahavat HaBriot, and it reflects afterwards to having also a good relationship with your husband and wife and your children, because if you feel good about yourself, you can reflect that to your children and to your wife and husband. So this is something that's very important for us to understand. First of all, it's for us. We need to learn as ourselves. What are we? Just like we explained before, like a sugya. What are we? What makes me upset? Why am I not feeling good about this or that? And get to that and improve that as much as we can. And sometimes we don't know how to do that, so we need to seek help from others. But sometimes it's not only us. We can help others as well. And first you have to try to do that in your inner family. You have your wife, you have your husband, you have your children. Your wife, people feel that I do so much for my wife and she's not happy. I give her this, I take her here, I give her compliments, all kind of things, and she's still not happy. Whatever I do, she's not happy. Normally, the reason a person is not happy because he's not happy with himself. If he's not happy with himself, it's not going to make him happy or her happy if you take him to trips, if you make him coffee, if you this, if you that. Those things are external things. First, he has to feel the inner happiness. How do you do that? You build the person up. You are a very special person. So if he starts believing in himself, it's work. But after he starts believing in himself, you have yourself a happy person. Once it's a happy person, then everything you do good for them, that shines in a different light. But if he's not happy, everything you'll do would be dimmed. It's not going to help. So this is a very big and important piece of information that we learn from Parashat Pinchas. Pinchas automatically is looked at as somebody that's doing something negative. You are negative, and therefore what you did is not accepted, right? There was a few years ago that a person came out, he was zealous, he was a kanai, and he took out with a knife and he killed. There was a parade for things that are metuav and disgusting. Oh. He went out and he killed a girl. Now, why is he not such a elevated, holy person like Pinchas? Because even Pinchas was looked at as a negative light. Because in order to do something negative, you have to be pure 100%. And normally we take a person to not be pure 100%. If you are doing something negative. Once you do something negative, it's not accepted as something good, something that would pass the test. Unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu can come and testify for you and say that you did it 100% L'Shem Shamayim, you are 100% okay with yourself. What was burning in you was only one thing, Kinat Hashem, which is not likely to be, unlikely by large to be, and therefore anything that anybody would do would not pass the test unless he's 100% pure. And this is what Pinchas was 100% pure. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it that stamp, Beriti Shalom, because he is Shalem. Once a person is Shalem, he can take it to the next level, to be also Shalom to the Briot, Shalom with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and eventually to become like Eliyahu, Pinchas Eliyahu, that would bring Shalom between men and men, and Eliyahu bא לעולם, אלא לעשות Shalom, להרבות Shalom, that's what it is. חזק וברוך.